What is an ion? An ion is a charged species which is formed by gaining or losing of electrons by an atom. See, in a neutral atom, the number of electrons is equal to the number of protons. An atom has subatomic particles like electrons, protons, and neutrons. If the number of electrons is equal to the number of protons, that is a neutral atom having no net charge on it. But if the number of electrons become more than the number of protons, this situation arises when a particular atom gains electrons. Okay, so during this situation, when the number of electrons become more than the number of protons, overall negative charge is acquired by the atom. Okay, so now this atom which has acquired a charge becomes an ion, and this ion carrying a negative charged ion, this is known as anion. And if the number of electrons become less than the number of protons, this situation arises when the electrons are lost by an atom. When it loses electrons, when the atom loses electrons, it has more number of protons and less number of electrons. So now, when the number of protons are more, overall this atom will have more positive charge. So overall this will acquire a positive charge, and now the atom which has acquired a positive charge no more remains an atom, it becomes an ion. Now this positively charged ion, this is called cation. Okay. Generally, metals have the tendency to lose electrons, so they form cations, and non-metals have the tendency to gain electrons, so they form negatively charged ions called anions. Okay, so these ions, oppositely charged ions, positive ions and negative ions, that is anions and cations, they are attracted by ionic forces of attraction, and they form ionic compounds. Ionic compounds. Okay. For example, if I take NaCl, in NaCl, sodium is a metal and chlorine is a non-metal. So sodium has the tendency to lose electrons, and therefore it forms Na plus, and chlorine has the tendency to gain electrons, and therefore it forms Cl minus 1. Cl minus, it's 1 unit of negative charge. Okay, so now these oppositely charged ions together form this ionic compound. Now, these charges may be on a single atom. Ions may consist of a single charged atom or a group of atoms that have a net charge on them. All right, it means that, like for example, this is a single charged atom, like for example, calcium 2 plus, magnesium 2 plus, or we can say S2 negative, O2 negative. These are all single charged atoms. Okay, single atom carrying in charge and then becoming an ion. But we may have a group of atoms and then they have a net overall charge on them. Such ions are called polyatomic ions. A group of atoms carrying a charge is known as polyatomic ion. So if I give you these examples of polyatomic ions, now these are the examples in table 3.6. You see ammonium ion. It's a polyatomic ion. Why? Because it has, more than two atoms. One atom of nitrogen and four atoms of hydrogen. So it's a group of atoms and they overall carry a positive charge. That means it is NH4, and this charge is overall on this entire group of atoms. Okay, poly means many, and atomic means atoms, many atoms, a group of atoms, and ions means when they carry a charge. So group of atoms carrying a charge, they are called polyatomic ions. So we have other examples like hydroxide ion, nitrate ion, this is bicarbonate ion, or hydrogen carbonate ion. This is one single thing. The other name for this is bicarbonate ion. Then we have CO3 2 negative, carbonate ion, sulfite, sulfate, phosphate. Okay, these are polyatomic ions. And if you see in the table 3.6 here, you see positively charged ions, cations here, and then anions here. So sodium forms 1 unit positive an ion with a 1 unit positive charge. Potassium forms an ion again with 1 unit positive charge. Silver, this is written copper 1. Copper 1 means now because this copper has 1 unit of positive charge, because copper has two different ions with different units of positive charges. So the copper with one valency is having 1 unit of positive charge, and this is Cu2 pluses with 2 units of positive charge. So if I have to name these ions, I call this as cuprous ion, and this copper 2 as cupric ion. Okay, similarly if you see here iron, iron 2 is Fe2 plus and iron 3 is Fe3 plus. So this Fe2 plus ion is ferrous ion, and this is ferric ion. Okay, and then you have negative ions like nitride, sulfide, oxide, hydrogen, hydride, chloride, bromide, iodide. So you have to learn these ions. You have to practice these ions with the chemical formula writing, and you need to know the charges acquired on each of these ions carefully for formula writing.